Okay,
Hello.
good evening, everyone. Um, Thanks for taking the time to join us this time at 10 p.m. This is the Career Lounge with Jerviel. So it's going to be free and easy. I got my background to be like a lounge. So I welcome all the guests to join us. We're gonna take some time. We're gonna let people kind of slowly stream in,
Mm.
etc. I know it's Monday. It's been crazy. Maybe right now you just send the last email out, which you shouldn't. It's about career mental wellness, so you shouldn't be sending email. So stop whatever you are doing. Put your work apps into sleep. And maybe right now you just bathe, you just had a run. So it's good time for you to just join us. Have a chat. So today we're gonna have two of my friends. One is my friend who were with me last week. Oh, 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it's been two
Uh,
weeks actually.
2 weeks, right? And we kind of just go talk for like 1.5 hours, and then the other one is his friend, Jared. I'm gonna get Jared to introduce himself later on, but I just gonna say something. I'm not sure if Jared kind of remember that we used to be in the same office.
Of course, I remember.
Yeah, I was just okay. Does he know that we are used to the same office? So it was my contract job at some
MCD, MD.
some yeah some government agency, and
Mhm.
then his ex boss became my boss later on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I
yeah, yeah.
remember that. Yeah, I remember where you were seated also.
I was seated quite near the door, quite near the door.
Exactly,
Wait,
Right.
exactly. What are the odds, right, Jeremiah? What are the odds?
what's with all this? Like, I still remember where you sit in last time. It started with our first session, and now Jared's going like, I still remember where you sit last
Yeah,
time.
Yeah. I still remember, yeah, and all that, and it was quite memorable lah back in those days.
Mm.
And yeah, great time. So today we're going to talk a little bit something that is quite appropriate, quite timely also. So yesterday was the World Mental Health Day, and I believe many
Oh
of us
yeah.
saw LinkedIn, like
Mm.
there's a lot of posts, and I wrote something that was quite personal as well, because
hmm
I also went through that journey. And this is to really say that there's nothing stigmatizing about it, right? Because we will all go through, and we have gone through, and we will go through time and time and again. And so today we want to talk a little bit or a lot more on career and mental wellness. And people sometimes think that, does it really connect? What does these two, what seems to be like very different components? What does it actually?
Mm.
Why do they actually matter? What's the overlap like? So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we go into that, like I mentioned, I want to have Jared to kind of just introduce yourself to our audience. So Jared, please go ahead. Your
Right.
elevated pitch.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Javier, for inviting me into Career Lounge. Really glad to be here, and we kind of have this revamp timing, right? That fits in with everybody. So I'm actually from Avoda People Solutions, and what that company is about is providing private career services. That means that we help people with the career transitions, and whether they are unemployed or employed, we just try to provide them a service, right, to help them to kind of find their path to move forward. So I get to be in this job that I really learn a lot from our clients, because everybody's journey, right, is really very different. It's like
Mm.
I get to hear all the stories, all the anguish and their pain, and more importantly, I get to see their success after that, and then that really gives me a lot of joy lah, to be doing this.
Mm.
Wow, cool. I think your job is actually all the more important during this period of time, right, where people are facing challenges, due to during this period of COVID when they're unemployed, or even just trying to get back on their feet post
Mm.
the pandemic and all that. We will do another session with Gerald, because I thought there's something quite good that we want to talk about was actually about career planning and career coaching. So initially, for everyone, initially we wanted to talk about that. Then Gerald say, "Hey, this month is actually the mental wellness month. Do we want to talk something about it?" And I was like, "Okay, it makes sense. To talk about it." And just so that when we were talking and planning all this convo, we realized that there's so many articles out there, and then just today itself there's like 2 or 3 articles just came out. So we thought that it's quite appropriate to talk about this. Jeremiah, do you need to introduce yourself? Because I think everybody heard you already lah. So 不用了 right?
应该是不用吧。Well, I mean, if you need me to, I can just...
Okay, you should. Maybe there are people who never joined us previously. Maybe you should. So Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremiah, as you already heard. So in the daytime, I help career practitioners like myself and many other people, such as Jerviel and Gerald, to upskill and be caught up with the latest and the greatest in career practice. Well, why we do that? Because it is important that we help career practitioners, because when we help them, they are able to help a multitude of individuals in Singapore, workers who happen to be fathers, mothers, individuals who have a mental health as well. Because we bring, as Jerviel and I chat in our last session, we bring our whole self to work, right? And when we bring our whole self to work, that is where we find center of meaning, productivity, purpose, enjoyment of work, and of course, a little dosage of stress here and there goes a long way, helping us to get our job done. So, and it's good to be here again, Jerviel. Thanks for inviting me still and not kick me out of the lounge. Tonight's session. So
you're like the VIP, you know, who gains like super access. Like, okay,
thanks.
Turn the bouncer, like I'm a VVIP. Okay, right. So right now we have about almost 20 people in. I think that's fine. Let's not keep everyone waiting because we talk about wellness, right? So we must make sure everybody sleep on time. So we try to end by 11, but I have no idea how the dynamic will work out. So bear with us, okay? If you go a little bit of late night today, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very good session. So so today, like I mentioned, we want to talk about careers, mental wellness, and I thought to maybe give everyone some context, right? So in the worldwide, I think a couple of months back, worldwide we are seeing this wave of the Great Resignation wave, right, where there are a lot of people quitting, right? I think US people are just quitting immediately, etc. Of course, there are many reasons, right? But I think where HBR, Harvard Business Review, when they released these in September, a lot of them were actually driven by the breaking point after months of just high workloads, right? Because maybe the company string, and then I have to do 3 other person's job, blah blah blah. Then hiring freezes, so I need to do more work, and perhaps in order to protect my job, I then need to do more than what I need to do, right? So it begins to kind of drain them. And therefore during that period, during this, they also start to kind of rethink some of their life priorities and goals, right? In SG particularly, we are already seeing a lot of news. I think just today we are, like I mentioned too, we are sharing a lot of articles. So we are seeing, like, I think a couple of weeks back there was an article that says Singapore has the highest score in terms of burnout. Right? We burn out, then end up the counselors who are counseling those burnout also burn out themselves as well. We are also seeing about there are 1.7 billion, right? I think just in was it Straits Time that talks about 1.7 billion cost in terms of loss of productivity or in terms of just healthcare costs that goes to really in terms of mental wellness. So there are a lot of news and articles, and of course I think if you look at some of the other news outlets, you will see like individual stories talking about they're quitting because it's just too stressed, blah 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 blah, right? So given that context, right, I just want to throw out to both Jared and Jeremiah, why is all this happening right now, right? I mean, stress has always been there from 5,000 years ago, right? Or since industrial revolution or whatever, there has always been stress, right? But what has caused this great resignation, or I would say this great awakening that people are thinking about it? Jerry, you want to go first? Then go by Jeremiah.
Yeah. Jerviel, you pointed out a lot of good stuff, as you were sharing. it's not about the people think it's about the work from home, think about COVID, it's not about that. That merely just is like the magnifying glass that made the all the pre-existing issues a lot clearer. It's like,
Mm.
you kind of know you got pimple, then you go to the mirror and you see, oh, the pimple look very big. Yeah. So then it make you realize that, oh, what am I getting myself into? How long more can this go? So, the even before work from home boundaries, right? The workload, like you mentioned, people quitting without a job, and then their existing job get left behind for the people. It adds on to them, and then there's not enough replacement. Maybe company want to save money, and then they're not hiring more. So then these people are carrying maybe 2 or 3 persons workload. It gets very tough for them. Maybe this group of people already a bit disengaged. They're really not very happy with the culture, or even the work that they're doing is not fitting them, not to their best strengths. Now you give them more load. And then after that, you make them work from home, for example, and then there are existing tensions at home. For example, family roles, those who are mothers, for example, they do feel the guilt when it comes to having to balance work and their kid is tugging at their pants. That's really tough. So then all these things are kind of culminate to this point that, okay, I think I really need to do something now already. Yeah, I need to take charge. I need to maybe take a break. Yeah. And then, of
Okay.
course, taking a break during this period of time, a lot of people do think that it's good because they say economy is not doing that well. Maybe better to take a break. And then when the economy picks up again, I can go and look for another job. I can move back into the job market. So some of the job seekers, they do think that way. Some people do think that way that, since now everything's down, right? Might as well I also
Right.
take a downtime first. Yeah. Jeremiah, what do you think?
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add on to. I think that's a very it's a fine point raised by Gerald, is that it has always been there, and I just want to add on just by sharing that early this year, in fact to be precise, 7 months ago, ADP is a human resource think tank organization. They wrote out a report. They say that only 11% of Singaporean workforce are engaged, and you got to wonder what happened to the other 89%. And there was also, and I think there was a early conversation mid-year this year, rather, before National Day, on how do you work with zombie workers, people who are working but the soulless, and they're not doing anything.
Ghosting you.
Yes, exactly, ghosting. That's the word. And it's a little wonder, with the pandemic and with all the different kind of stressor in the environment, distraction at work, detractors at work as well. I say detractors because we know things that will draw us away from, or make us less productive at work. So it's a little wonder that there's so many stressor around us, and that really causes the individual, even myself. I mean, I'm speaking of myself as a career practitioner, as a worker of my organization. I am also distracted in certain sense. I do not claim to say that I'm, because of work from home and all things digital now. I personally think that engagement level in Singapore over the past few years has slowly dipped along the way. When with the COVID-19, the pandemic, it kind of accelerated things a bit more. It drove situations in Singapore in ways that we never thought would happen. So this is really an eye opener, and one of the factor that we really need to talk more is how this stress taking a toll on our mental health with the work from home configuration.
Right. Great points that you all brought out, and I have two to add on. Right. So first is that I think Gerald was just not mentioning that it kind of makes all this kind of just surface, right? It's like these are problems that were submarine all this while, and then suddenly there's this tsunami, then all the submarine all just start to surface to the top, right? And that's very interesting, because all along we thought that if you look at all the engagement surveys that perhaps you do before COVID, right, and you'd be like, oh, everybody say they're very happy and all that, and you thought that, okay, paying people very well, promotion, training and development, you thought that all these are all the important contributors to someone being retained and being engaged, right? But then you realize it takes one COVID to just say, So what if you can accelerate in your career? So what if if you are in some management trainee program? It cannot be compared to mental wellness, right? That's one. Second, I think to Jeremiah's point was, I think just today I read about articles say that we are always zigzagging at work, right? Because we always have to switch between work and then we have a kid that is tugging our pants and say they need our attention. But then when we are with our kids, our mind is kind of distracted because we're thinking about work. So we are always zigzagging in and out and all that. Cool. I thought that those are very good points that all of you brought out. I know that there are many factors to say burnout, right? And just now we talk about work from home. And I think work from home, people really understand, right? That is really just trying to struggle between the demands at home. And then if you are working from home and then your kids are home-based learning, I think that's it's a nightmare, right? I have friends who are married and like I feel like I'm a full-time IT department at home to solve my kids' issue.
I agree. My son
right,
as well.
you do. I understand, right? Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot to talk about work from home already. I think that we don't talk about it. But what about other areas that may contribute to this burnout, right? Beside the work from home, whereby boundaries kind of got blurred.
I'm just going to jump in here and share. I mean, I think when we are I think the pandemic caught the world by storm. Where we didn't know it was going to be so. It's going to linger around for so long. I think I still remember friends and colleagues saying things like, it's going to be around just for maybe 9 months, max 1 year. It's just like kind of SARS, something. My goodness, look, it's already coming to 2 years.
2 years, bro.
Yes,
it's like 2 years.
I mean, we could do an anniversary. It's like, I survived second year of COVID-19. and I tell you, and with the on and off heightened alert, the not so popular word of lockdown, being thrown around the world. Our own well-being activities, sports, leisure rights, ability to do something that is outside of work, to be able to explore, or just simply if I would like to have 3 of us physically in the same room doing a session like that, we can't, because regulation from a perspective of safety management, we can't meet up. And as a result, one of the things that's taking a toll on mental well-being, maybe because the people are not prepared to tackle or to find ways to cope with such an activity. And as a result, I think it's taking a lot of toll, not just on individuals, but as you've seen, teachers, counselors, people are being burned out. And I think this is really something worth diving into.
Yeah,
right.
Jeremiah is right. It's not, even for those people who are not working from home, the amount of changes at the workplace that they have to deal with. Firstly, having to swap every time, right? Because they have to go, right? That's one big discomfort even before you start work. But practically, there are so many things. The way we work in the office has changed, right? Jeremiah, what's that? Oh, that's your test kit.
Yep.
You want to show the world that you are negative.
Swap.
Another few hours not valid already. You have to do another.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, but I give you an example, right? I know of people who have to work in the office, and they tell me that now, because for example they do split teams, right? They kind of have to do 2 departments work or 2 teams work when they're in the office. There are some of this person, for example, her job role requires her to do, there are certain things that can only be done in the office. And when the team that's not the offsite team, they can't do that. And she has to basically do her own work plus the other team's work in the office. So it's like this kind of very interesting work habits, right? Then creates a kind of pressure on the person, the way if it just doesn't feel like it's easy, then maybe you announce like, okay, we're all going to come back together. Then suddenly you announce you're going to split teams again. it does something to the mental. Overall, people just don't have the capacity, the psychological capacity
Yeah.
to deal with this type of changes. When changes keep going on and on, people, it really tests people's resilience, right? And I think this is perhaps one of the, in our history, perhaps one of the most challenging times mentally for a lot of us to really
Okay.
see, do we have what it takes to adapt to the frequent changes? Are we still able
Yes.
to smile and just say, let's just try this? Or are we, just being very negative, and of
Mm.
course, Jerviel, is the people around us as well. Can you imagine you're the
Mm.
only one trying to smile when everybody around you is complaining? Then that's gotta,
Oh,
yeah.
that just like shot through my heart as a HR practitioner, whereby okay, right. The reason why I say it shot through my heart is because I think and I hope there are HR people who are listening to this. I know it's very tough on you because
Mm.
you always have to appear like you got everything settled and you got your
Mm.
shit together. Sorry, you got your act together
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in front of 50 people, 100 people, 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Right? They always think that the HR has to we are part of the ministry multitask force like that, as if we know what needs to be done like the very next day, etc. So I mean, I salute to everybody, but I particularly also salute to the HR because I know it's not
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Because everybody just kind of demand that you know everything and they expect you to adjust all the S&M just for them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think writing just to also give another perspective to Jeremiah and Jared point, right, where they talk a little bit, which is more on the external part of the work, right. I'm talking about, I want to look at the internal part, which is I think earlier just on introduction I'll talk about, which is this mindset that you need to hold the fort. Whereby now is the time where everybody feels very insecure about their work, right? And you have no idea about the company's future, how things will turn out, right? And some companies can just fall overnight and etc. And then when when you start to see your peers being let go, etc., you become even more scared because you are not sure whether you are next in line of the chopping
Mm.
board. And then what you do is then you begin to stress out yourself. I've seen people who just kind of stress out themselves because they just need to overprove themselves that they are worthy to stay.
Mm.
Right? So that's where they kind of overwork, they overpromise, they just kind of do not know the boundaries of work anymore because they just feel like they need to perform, because if they don't, then they will be the next in line.
That's
And
right.
and this is also perhaps seen in new joiners, right? When you just join a new company, and we always talk about this thing called the imposter syndrome. I think there was a period of time where people talk
Yeah.
about imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Whereby you go in, you are like, okay, I don't want to appear like I'm a fake, I'm not suitable for the role. I am a fraud. So what you end up doing is, again, you overpromise. You keep doing it. Everything you're just raising up a hand to say yes, yes, yes. But that's where you realize that you actually potentially building your pathway into burnout because
Mm.
you're just trying to be everything for everyone.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I'm not sure if y'all come across anybody who have imposter syndrome, like your clients, or sometimes maybe they go into a new role, then they
I think for imposter syndrome, since we're talking about that topic, I think it's something that a lot of us, we probably face at some point of time, right? It's a thought pattern, It's a thought pattern that all of us, we kind of have pondered upon it. The only question is whether do we dwell on it long enough for it to become imposter syndrome, lah. Yeah. So like one common example, I think for some of the clients that I have spoken to before, for example, when they are about to take on a new role, right? Being promoted, and then after that being promoted, but yet your peers, the people that you're supposed to report to you, are all older than you.
right.
And then you're wondering, okay, I got the promotion, but they're all older than me, and am I able to lead them properly? So that's one. The other very common thing that I observe, and this is really my personal observation, right, is that a lot of, but then maybe again it could be because there's the people who step forward to talk about this tend to be more of, for example, females. So a lot of females,
okay.
I do observe that they come they're quite forthcoming about talking about imposter syndrome. They do feel like, I don't know whether I can really lead a team of males, or am I ready to be in the boardroom with so many males. So they do question themselves, and I applaud them, for even being aware of this, because sometimes I feel that as males, right, we do feel that way, but maybe because we have higher levels of perceived self-efficacy, we think we think we can just gloss over or just conquer anything along our path. So we just like quite quickly put the thought away. But I guess for females, maybe they do think a lot more, and they do consider the risk properly. And that's the reason why they might feel that, okay, this is something that I need to be considering about. So yeah, I see this very common in my female clients, especially those who are just about to take on senior leadership role.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason why I talk about imposter syndrome, although it may seem like a little bit far off, but I do see people who get stressed out as a result of imposter syndrome, because like I think to Jared's point is, in the case, but perhaps those who feel that they lack the influence over others, what they do is they overcompensate, right? They just keep doing
That's right.
more, driving themselves more, whipping themselves do more,
Yeah,
which in that
that's right.
process, they
Burnout.
may sacrifice their burnout. I mean, their wellness and all that. We can talk about imposter syndrome another time, but I just thought that it is important to take note of, because I do see quite a lot this year, because when I have friends who go into new role, and then the pandemic actually makes it, the imposter syndrome, even worse.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because you can't see the people.
Yeah.
You can't
Exactly.
build the team relationships with them. And you're leading them. It's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeremiah,
especially for individuals who rely a lot on very tangible relationship building. Of course, being able to be establish the presence, talking, be able to relate in person. And when this kind of connection is taken away, the individual who might not know how to relate, how to otherwise establish alternative communication, or should I say, if you're a team leader or you're a manager, how do you establish your command and control protocols? Usually, you just turn your chair around and just check in with your product manager, and you just ask the person, or just turn over to your developer or etc. or sales coordinator, and you get your answer. So I think with the work from home, with the breakage of this kind of norms, individuals might not psychologically feel this immediate go-to channel anymore, and it might raise, I would not say that they might become depressed by it. I would say it will raise anxiety because they don't feel certain about being able to do the same thing to get job done. And Jerviel, as you accurately mentioned, right, they will overcompensate, or either way they will just flee from this thing. It's like they'll go into a regressive behavior,
Right.
and then everything will just go south. And I think what we really need is at the workplace is we need, even especially, and I say this to some of my team members, is that in times like this, the more you can't see each other. I used to go to office and I'll just text my team and say, hey, you guys, anyone want coffee or not? I'm going past toast box. Anything? So your usual kopi si kosong amai, So usually I'll just ask that, and I'll just walk in. I'll say, hey, good morning, guys. Then pass the coffee here and there. Now there's no like, I'm going past toast box. Now there's no, hey, good morning, guys. There isn't this anymore.
I do welcome you. I mean, I'm just going to text you my address. You if you want to use this,
Deliver over, right?
yeah, you can kind of do it. Like, I also want that connection too.
Yeah. We crave this, because I think as human, this is what we are. We are social creatures. We have to whether we like it or not. If you're introvert, even if you're introvert, you may run out of your extrovert battery, but you know what? At the end of the day, you are still a human creature. So, and I would say this is that sometimes in times like that, working from home, to maintain our wellness, sometimes we may need to, for us, if you are strong, and those of you are listening, if you're strong with your mental strength, your communication strength, sometimes we just need to reach out to someone just tap in and check in with them. How are they doing? If you're okay, over communicate a bit on your end to help them know that, hey, you know what, I'm here, I'm with you. You know what? Do you want to have a Zoom call, just chat or nothing, just nothing, and things like that. And it gives a
We'll
boost.
come to that later when we talk about what colleagues or our peers can do.
Yeah. Okay.
But let's just talk about a little bit about um the employer's part, right? Because you see, from an HR angle, right, is we already have all these programs, right? Fitness lah, Zumba lah, flea market lah. We already have all these, but why are they not working? I mean, are they not
Okay.
working out? Are they not sufficient? What did employers not picked up?
I
Yeah.
think the first thing, if today you are struggling with your job, and I just assume you got arrowed by your boss to say, can you organize the flea market for the department or for the company, right? I pity you. Yeah, because you're already overloaded and then you still have to go and do this, right? I think some of this could resonate with some of the listeners here, like getting arrowed extra work to serve other people's welfare. You'll be thinking, what about my welfare? Have you ever considered me? Right. But Jerviel, you're right. There are existing efforts, and I do see more and more so, because this thing about mental wellness is taking a lot more attention than before. I guess the only issue here is the gap here is this, that people don't know that they need this. We can be stuck in a cycle, an unhappy cycle of doing, complaining, angry, and then after that, without even realizing that we are having anxiety. Some of us don't even sleep enough because of the anxiety, or we worry a lot, and we've been putting on weight, we've been losing weight, but we don't read the signs clearly enough that we actually need help. And we think that this is just things that are maybe distracting me from my core work. Or maybe these things don't apply to me. They are for weak people. I'm not weak. I'm still trying to tough it out.
Yeah.
So they don't know they need this.
And I think that is actually made more exponential by gender. Right? If a female were to ask for help as compared to a male who asks for help, that based on the current society is the male get more judged if the male asks for help, right? Because the societal expectation is break a sweat, but don't let them see you break a sweat, right? Like you can sweat, but you cannot let anybody else sweat. So I think that's made more tough for even sometimes guys, right? To ask for help, because if you ask for help, let's say a guy come to me, for example, and ask for help, I'll be like, hey, you should be able to do it, why? Why can't be toughened up? But that actually kind of disconnect you with that person, because maybe that person is really asking you for help, but because of how we usually see these kind of things through gender specific, then we are like, we kind of brush it off in that sense, right? Yeah. Jeremiah, you want to say something?
No, I just want to. I don't agree with you. I think the notion of or the stereotype. I mean, I'm just gonna call it for what it is.
Right.
And this kind of stereotype is when we impress this kind of stereotype on someone who may be hurting on the inside, a fellow employee, and we turn them away. We might turn away their lifeline of being able to unload, to be able to provide some form of listening ear to them. And when you were sharing that, I recall a time at work where a colleague of mine actually do that, and it's a he, and I think and that particular colleague of mine was sharing that he felt that there was some form of prejudice against his work, and it's for I mean, in Asian culture, for us it is a to admit that you've done something wrong in the past, and you're perpetually being targeted, you're perpetually being signaled out for certain type of quality of work. I mean, that is very to me, is very worrying, because if they continue to receive and think this way, they are stuck in a cycle of thinking that way. We risk losing this individual productivity, engagement, the value that the person bring over time. And if you're not even careful as a colleague or as a team manager, team leader, we continue to perpetuate this cycle as well. And we don't know how to encourage, we don't know how to help them step out of that cycle. We may just push this guy further down south. And I would say that we need to look out as to be team leaders, to be supervisors. We need to look out for people, this kind of behaviors and signs. Not that because we want to judge them, but because we want to lend a hand to say that, you know what, if you need someone to chat to, I'm here. Yeah. And I think, yeah.
Right. No, I thought that's quite good, right? Because you know, sometimes you, like what Jerry mentioned, sometimes you do not know you are caught in that cycle. But maybe someone else actually realized that, hey, you know, you have not been eating, you've always been skipping lunch, you have just been like a zombie at work.
Or coming to work late, for example. Yeah.
So how should peers help, right? Because, you know, sometimes you struggle between, if I were to ask, maybe that person feel embarrassed, or should I ask? But even if I ask, I'm not sure how I can help, because maybe we are all not trained as counselors, right? But yet, you know, we feel for our peers and our colleagues. So what do you think are some of the things that as a peer or as a colleague, you know, we can do?
You know, I'm just reminded that I have some friends who are even clients who tell me that, you know, my day is just filled with Zoom meetings, video calls, back to back, no time to go toilet, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, with all that communication going on, couldn't have someone notice something, or couldn't have someone just ask, like maybe spend a bit of time instead of talking about the work, talk about the person, like how are we doing, you know? When is it that when we had our lunch meeting, right, at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and you actually asked the people in the meeting room, have you guys eaten your lunch? You know, I think we kind of became so work oriented, even in a work from home situation over Zoom calls, that we forgot to be human. So
yeah.
I do think that as colleagues, right, just check in with people, like, you know, for every work meeting you have, right, make sure that if you're meeting the person over several work meetings, you know, ask yourself, when was the last time you asked that person how that person is doing, you know, and just commenting, maybe even start by sharing about how you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling frustrated, right? But you could just say, you know, how this whole situation you're feeling today. Talk about feelings a little bit before you get started on the work itself. I think that helps to build rapport, and also perhaps allows a little bit of relief, because, you know, for someone to go straight to see a counselor, for example, or straight to go and see a psychiatrist, right, there's actually a big distance, right? And you know, people do need to go through that recognition that I need help. They need to have tried certain things on their own before they decide that, I think I better pay a counselor or psychiatrist, check myself in for some professional service. And what happens in between? The family plays a part, the community plays a part, your friends play a part, your colleagues play a part, right? Everybody is there to kind of help you. If today the problem can be solved by then, you feel supported, then you live to fight another day, right? But if today you're not, then these people would tell you, you know, that maybe you should get some professional help. You know, it's time to go to the EAP. It's okay to go to HR to say, I need to activate EAP. Right? The Employee Assistance Program. Because I can only imagine the stigma, you know, that you go to your HR and say you need to do this, and HR is concerned, your reporting officer gets notified, and then perhaps your boss is wondering, your work is going to become my work, you know, what's happening to you? Yeah. So that's just some of my thoughts. Jeremiah, what do you think?
I personally think that, if I may add on to what Gerald said, everything he just said, additional points for those who are listening. One way to immediately help a fellow colleague who you suspect might be under the weather in terms of, mentally, not just their biological health, as well, is to have a I know we have said a lot of things. I think a lot of organization has been saying that, hey, managers check in with your staff, how are they doing at the workplace. We also have to ask ourselves, how are we checking in? The attitude, the posture by which we say it. Because sometimes I have heard colleagues actually saying this, and what more recently from a client is that, oh, they are just artificially checking in because the higher ups are saying, please check in. So, and I would say that, on riding on the point what Gerald said, we have to be sincere. We have to ask ourselves when we check in with someone, a team member, a fellow supervisor, when I checking in, why am I checking in? On what basis am I checking in? And I tend to gyrate towards the angle of being sincere, being sincere, being very genuine about how the person is. And let me just give you a real example. Recently, another colleague of mine wasn't coping so well because a myriad of factors. It's not just work from home, but it's also it could be a subject matter, etc. So one way that we could help this person is, and because I work with that person closely, what I would do is, and which I did, was I'll just say that, this part over here we were discussing over the bigger meeting just now. You know what? At the next meeting, let me do this part. Let me do it for you. Let me just come up with a few proposal. You take additional time that you need to just cover your area. I think this is an area that I could help. We could support each other for. This time around, let me do it. So I think lifting a bit of weight, minute taking, for example, taking some quick points for them if you know that there's a lot on their mind and they are not able to unload. So these things small, but it goes a long way to showing them that, hey, I care. And I think this is something small that I'm doing for you, so that you can take a breather and focus on what Jared said, the fight ahead, the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerviel, if I could add on one point, right? I think there's something practical that we could do. Most of the time I realize that when we ask people, hey, how are you doing? The response is okay, lor. We in Avoda, we did a talk. We asked about how's your job? Everybody okay, lor. It's like we almost don't have that vocabulary to describe exactly how we feel. Maybe because we didn't process that feeling well enough, right? So one thing I would encourage, those of you listening in as a tip, right? Go and Google this thing called the emotion wheel. All right, there's this wheel, Google emotion wheel. It's just like the colorful diagram of like circle with a lot of words of emotion.
Yeah.
The next time you ask your team, how are you feeling, right? Share your screen, show that picture, and then you say, can you just point out to me choose a word. Don't tell me okay, lor. Tell me one primary emotion. Or maybe you get to choose 2 or 3. I can be feeling happy today. I'm feeling disgusted today. I'm feeling overwhelmed today. And then you can have that conversation, like just asking, what happened? How come like this? What are you happy about? What are you overwhelmed? What are you disgusted about? And then, if today you don't have that boss to ask you, then maybe you can do that self-check. Use the same emotion wheel. Plot how you're feeling at the end of the day, right? Ask yourself, make yourself go through the emotion wheel. Pick up the emotions that you are feeling that day and start to document them down. If over a 7-day period, you're seeing the word disgusted come out a lot of times, you need to talk to somebody about disgusted.
I those are really great tips. I recently just started, not say recently lah, for a long period of time I've been doing journaling, and I actually find that is actually a very good way to do so, because like just on what Jared earlier mentioned, right? Sometimes you do not know that you got caught into this hamster wheel, right? Where you keep thinking, you keep like over dress rehearsing like the worst case scenario, but you didn't know, right? Because you're just caught in that loop, or you actually didn't know that you actually, what I call, chandelier your emotion. You just kind of like push it all the way down because you just don't want to feel them. You just want to go on with life, but then realize when you chandelier too much, right? When it hits to the roof, it's actually the all hell break loose. So I started doing journaling. I realized that it was very good because it felt like a conversation I have with myself. I'm actually writing like a third party, like a different Jerviel. I was just looking at it, and I'm able to make sense. And I mean, when you do journaling, it's whereby you can just write out everything you feel, whether is it the emotions, whether people call it the dark side or not, right? I don't normally say the dark emotions. I think emotions are emotions. There's nothing bad about it and all that, right? But able to journal it down, it's just so good because you kind of do a retrospect or introspect whatsoever,
Mm.
and then you realize that, hey, that is a different viewpoint, or say, hey, actually all these are just something I made up in my mind. They are not exactly true. They are not a reflection of the reality. It's just something
Yep.
I tell my mind tells me to believe it, right? So
Mm.
I find that journaling has been very important. And I just want to use this opportunity because just now both of them, Jeremiah and Jared, talk a lot more about the peers and all that. And I just thought that I will share from the company's point of view. Right. Of course, it's great that you have good colleagues, but I think company also play a very, very good, important role in this sense. And we have seen a lot of companies, right, doing like no Zoom meeting Wednesday lah, no don't know what on Friday, pajamas Monday. I don't know. I
Yep.
think all these are good, and all that. I would, and of course right now they also buy like a lot of this kind of wellness programs or portals from Calm, or I think locally they have MindFi. I think recently Food Panda signed on with another collaboration with. I'm not endorsing Food Panda. I mean I love Food Panda, but I'm Food Panda doesn't sponsor this show. But
Yeah.
Food Panda just signed on with a contract, a collaboration with another. I think something like a mental wellness company to provide mental wellness to their drivers and the delivery men and all that. But I think one thing that employers need to practice a lot more is actually, I would say, flexibility.
Mm.
Given that right now we work from home, our hours have drastically changed. It's no longer just as simple as 9 to 6. And I think in the startups, it tends to be better because we do allow people to just say, you need to go for a midday run at 12, go.
Mm.
If you need to hit the swimming pool at 3 p.m. because you just had a very tired day, go.
Mm.
I think giving people back that power to kind of arrange their time is also very good and important. Because right now at home, right, we kind of lost track on time, and sometimes it's that maybe I just need a nap. I just need a 20 minutes nap. Maybe I just need to go out for a run. Maybe I just need to go for a 10-minute meditation walk outside of my house, right? And I think employers should allow that kind of flexibility and say, okay,
Mm.
as long as the work is being done, right, just go and do whichever way that helps you to recharge,
Yeah.
That's right.
right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I
No,
think
those are
that's
great options.
yeah. So no shame, okay? No shame if you need to take a afternoon nap. Afternoon nap has been proven to improve productivity very
Yeah.
powerfully. Yeah. So no shame on that.
Yeah.
My boss actually encouraged people to, if you need to go and work out to the gym, go. Right. You can
Yeah.
always do the work later on. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jerviel, you pointed out something that's really important, right? It's the boss. A lot of times
Mm,
the boss, the leaders play a huge role, a huge responsibility. They don't just make sure that work gets done, the sales, the figures, and the performance is there. They also got to take care of the people that are under them, right?
mm,
So, in Singapore, we are based in Asia. Our worldviews, our perspectives are very Asian, very collectivism. We tend to behave in a way that how I see my peers behave, I will behave the same way. If nobody's asking for a swim at 3 p.m., I'm definitely not going to ask for a swim because I feel I'm
Mm.
sticking out. So, bearing that in mind, then when the leaders or the HR or the company plans activities, they need to bear that in mind. Maybe the leaders need to start. The leaders need to really be sincere, and also engaging with their people, engaging
Yeah.
with the members and set the example. Recently they had this like what the sunglasses emoji, right? If today your boss texts you, then
oh yeah,
you
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
you put back the emoji, right? My point
Yeah.
is this, can't the boss just
Not
don't
send an
send that?
email out.
Yeah, not send it at all. Then why do you have to put the onus on the employee
Yeah.
to say no? Why can't you as a boss say no? And then it starts from there. Take care of yourself and then leave to find another day and take care of your people. I think it's a lot of sometimes if you are the mid level or you're the executive working in the company, you're the most the entry level lah, right? You often feel like how come all these leaders are just passing the ball down, 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 and it's just like reaching me, So I do think leadership plays an important part for companies. Leaders need to start to walk the talk. You cannot
Yeah.
say expect the employee, oh, go and do what you want, because we are a collectivist
Yeah.
society. We don't want to stick out like a sore thumbs. So I really think the leaders is really a test of leadership as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to bring up a point which on Jared before we move on to our next, because I'm just cognizant about time. But I guess again we will break our record once again, because I think it's really a good flow. I actually tell my leaders, please go on leave. Because if you don't, people below reporting to you, they are not comfortable to take it because my leaders are not taking leave.
Yeah.
So I actually force
That's
my
right.
leaders and like, can you take leave? You got 5 days to clear. I will always nag them, because you have to lead, and you have to you have to help destigmatize that taking leave during this period of time is perfectly fine. Of course, there's nowhere else to go lah. But just taking it, because right now, because everybody's like, oh, I cannot go anywhere, so I don't take leave.
Yeah. No.
Right, I can't
no.
travel overseas
Yeah.
and all that. But you actually subtly send a message to everybody, whether you do it intentionally or not intentionally. People get the message is, oh, I feel bad if I take on leave, because it feels like everybody is putting 120% of their time and I'm the one go on leave. So I feel guilty, so I better not take leave.
Yeah. Take leave means not just don't turn up. It means don't check remotely as well. Don't access your emails.
I'm guilty.
Don't send
I'm
messages.
guilty. I will swipe right to my app, and if I happen to see like there's this this notification badge, I'll go and press it. So
Yeah.
I just thought I'll hold this point, because we do have some comments, and I want to appreciate these people who write comments. And if any of you are writing comments or have any questions, just feel free to write it here. So there is someone who says that such a good point on being sincere when we connect and check with our colleagues. I think authenticity is key in every interactions. Yes, because we work long enough to know when it's a fake greeting lah. We know it lah, right? When you're just asking out of convenience, right? Sandra Cho say, totally agree. Without being genuine, sincere, and authentic, it will or may actually cause reverse effect, right? I.e., potential creation of resentment. So we need to walk the talk. And then just on Thomas say about empowerment, which is letting people have the flexibility over their time and control the time, because you should be able to trust people that you hire, that they know how to manage their time well, right? You no longer have to nanny over them, right? And then someone say leadership is so important in organizations. Leading by example speak volumes and influence culture so much. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think all of us can see that how this conversation kind of just connects to a greater thing. Like we just talked about mental and career, mental wellness at work, but actually connects to so many things, right? Whereby colleagues play a part, leadership plays an even important role. What are the resources we can put in, and then individually, what should we do? And I think we haven't really deep dive into the individual perspective, right? Which is, what can. So let's say, right, I'm stuck in this thing. I'm overworked. My boundaries are lost. Are blurred and etc. What can I do? And also, how do I know that this is not, like we also don't want to appear like, or just because something is tough, we just give up, or following the great resignation, or I just quit law. I got stressed. I just quit law. So how do we strike that balance? How can we be aware that we are not overstretching ourselves, but at the same time, it is not like, we are a strawberry generation, right? Whereby I just, my boss never give me flexibility. I just work 45 hours this week. I cannot take it. I quit. So how do we draw that line?
Right. If I may just jump in. Well, I think there is no silver bullet. There is no baseline standard for what is enough for every individual. We're all wired up differently. We all feel differently. We all think and behave differently. We need to take a stock take on ourselves of when we actually, for example, a very easy way, and I think in this age, a lot of people actually have a smartwatch. And I just want to go on the record and say this, is that when you, yes, I know it's that Apple Watch. Okay. I'm more sporty, I'm not Garmin, right? So jogging and cycling. Heart rate, I just want to say this out. Heart rate is a very easy indicator of how we are doing at the workplace. So, like for example, sometimes I do extract out information, and I look at myself. It's like, how come I'm seated down but my heart rate is at 120? I never asked myself. And I trace back to that day and like, that day, this. It was a very intense, for example, discussion and project management moment. And this kind of things, if it's perpetually, you have lots of peaks like that, for example, and you feel that you're perpetually warm, or you are the direct opposite, you're disengaged, you feel indifference, you're not engaged, you're not interested in discussion. This two extreme tells a very clear cut something is not right. But I also want to I know time is short, I just want to quickly make this point. I just want to hand over to Gerald. Is that in this day and age, I think emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, our mental well-being is not something that we embrace collectively as a society. Given what Gerald has said earlier, we have Asian society. The moment people think about, I want to jaga my mental well-being, and a typical Asian will be like, don't be so kunyang lah, don't be so sissy, for example. This is a very, very typical saying. Well, the thing is I personally think is that we also perhaps need basics of mental well-being education. Each and every one of us views mental well-being differently. And what does mental well-being mean to one person, to another person? It means differently. And some people will even say that, to be mentally well means I can have a job. I will work until late night. Another one will be, no, I live on the dot. To each, they have their own definition. And I think the onus is on both the leaders, the team leaders, supervisors. I mean, I'm speaking to all of us here, those of you are listening. We have to really play a role in our staff life. And if you think that something isn't right, sincerely approach them, have a genuine chat about what it means. What does mentally well-being mean for you and I? I think this is something that we have not had enough conversation about in Singapore.
I think for those of you here who are listening in, or someone who's really struggling with the work, and you just want to feel like, I just want to throw in the towel, I just want to resign. I don't want to. Even without a job, without a plan, right? My advice to this group of people is, you kind of want to make a decision, right? When you have that kind of a clear headspace, you want to kind of process your next steps coherently, not on an emotional basis, right? I'll give you an example. A lot of times when we I know of someone who ever came to me crying, telling me that she was facing a lot of workload issues, right? Constantly crying, and it was very tough for her. I mean, my heart went out to her all the way, and at the end of the day, after talking to her, you guess what? She didn't leave her job, because she realized that after processing her thoughts, the problem was not so much of the job. It was more of how she was performing, the expectations she was putting on herself in the job. And that realization, right? It sort of like turned on the light for her, and she could see that, okay, actually I'm in control.
Yeah.
Things are not out of control. It's in my control. And now the tides have turned. Now she says that, now I know that I can survive here, but I'm still dissatisfied, right, with my work, because maybe I'm not getting enough engagement for it. But I have a solid stepping stone now. I know how to plan for my next step. I'm not fretting about every day being disengaged every day. I'm actually okay coming to work. I know I can do this. Things are in my control, but I have a plan. I have an idea. I have a direction I can take to move forward. Yeah. So that is what we call a win-win kind of a situation. You are not eager to leave your job, but you have a plan as well. So a lot of people, when we think about career planning, we think it must result in a job change. No, career planning means that it results in a job plan, rather a direction. You know what you want, and you're just waiting for the right moment. You're working your way towards it. You're pivoting, you're planning for it, you're managing, you're utilizing the existing resources that your company gives to you to prepare for that move when the time is right. Now, isn't that the sweet spot? But so, processing, you can only get to this place, right, once you have kind of processed what's in your mind and your situation objectively. Yeah. So don't just feel like, you just need to throw and then resign, because sometimes you don't know whether the effect of doing that is worse than what you're going through now.
Yeah.
Right. I think just to kind of add on to what Gerald and Jeremiah mentioned, Chinese there's this saying, 你跑得了和尚，你跑不了庙. So in my translation is, you can change the office, you can change your boss, but it doesn't mean that you have changed the problem or you have tackled the problem. Because I always feel that when you meet a problem at work, and if your immediate response is to quit, I can guarantee you 150% that same problem will come back to you and test you again in your next workplace. So it's almost like, God will always give you this challenge every time until you decide to sit down, take the test, and go through it. Whether you pass or not, it doesn't matter, right? It's really just tackling it, and through that process you learn. So that's to
Jerviel, exactly. When I for those of you who know me, I love to run, right? Sometimes when I run and there's an upslope and I'm tired already, I'll tell myself, do I want to stop at the bottom of the slope and then just walk up, or do I want to sprint up the upslope and then after that decide to stop and walk down the downslope? I have that choice. Do I want to just quit now because I think the path ahead is very rocky, or do I want to get over the upslope so that I can prove a point to myself, so that I make sure that I learned about myself sufficiently from this experience? You know what happens on the upslope? You get to see a different view. You get to see things very differently. And then you enjoy the reward of walking down slope after that. Rather than, right at the bottom, it's going to be upslope, right? So every time if I come to that point, I'm speaking metaphorically, of course, right? Every time I come to that point, I'm always going to feel like I'm not going to overcome it. Yeah. So Jerviel, whatever you shared me about the monk and the temple, right, reminded me of this.
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
always at the point where when you think you cannot make it and you think that there's nothing you can do, there's always something that you can do out of it, right? But there's also another point I'll bring out just to add on the perspective is, yes, I mean, there is one side that we don't want to just quit easily, right? And all that, but I think there's also a portion of people out there who maybe you really had enough, right? We don't want to kind of just say, oh, your problem doesn't matter, or say you try and solve it. Sometimes you're trying to fight the air, it's just difficult, right? Sometimes, unfortunately, you are in a not so ideal work environment, right? Abusive environment, right? Or just bosses who are just not supportive, right? They tell you, oh, you can go and take the break, but then when you want to apply leave, why you apply leave?
No.
It's just counterintuitive and all that. There is nothing wrong if you say you don't want to do this anymore, right? I mean, of course, right now we encourage all of you to just keep on striving and all that, but please don't push yourself to that. We don't want you to go to the extreme that you push yourself to the breaking point and we try to say that you can solve it, right? Sometimes it's just say, you know what, I have enough, and it's fine. And I once went through this as well, and I left a very verbally abusive environment because I realized that it wasn't healthy. It was paying me well, but it wasn't healthy, and I realized that no way, I don't want, because I can't change my boss, right? I mean, they own the business, I can't change them, so I had to leave, right? So there's no shame if you think that is something that you need to do. I think ultimately is about placing your wellness as top priority. I think that's the message we want to bring across. And that is defined by every one of you, which can be different from each other.
Yeah, exactly, Jerviel. There's no shame in seeking help to talk to someone, right? We in Avoda we do work with Singapore Anglican Community Services. They've got a great set of what we call career wellness services. which covers things like talking about, for example, depression or feelings of anxiety. And they've got professional counselors that just to talk to you about this, So having someone to process the thoughts, gets you to the right headspace to say, is this something that objectively I need to move on?
Yeah.
Or do I need to, or it's a problem more with me, So
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard for us to decide that on our own, when we kind of going through the cycles of life. So getting to talk to a counselor, for example, if especially guys, if this is affecting your health, your sleep, your emotions, you're flaring out your spouse, your kids, these are telltale signs that you do need to talk to somebody, right?
That's
Don't
right.
let this perpetuate and continue, because it will spiral and it doesn't help you in any way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wrote a post just over the weekend. I think to Gerald's point is, I had my burnout once, and I actually hurt people that I shouldn't have. And gosh, right now I regret, because I feel that those relationships were strained, and I don't have an opportunity to go and repair it, right? But putting that aside, I think after that incident, I realized that, hey, setting very clear boundaries um is very important. And I think also, just to connect back to when we talk about peers and leadership, right, is that everybody's boundaries will be different. And I think how we can help each other is to respect that boundary. So if Jared tells me he can't respond to my email after 7 p.m. because he wants to spend time with the family, then I respect it. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And if I say I don't want to, I'm going to go for a walk at 3 p.m. every day, then you respect it, right? I think that is also one way we can support each other, by respecting each other's boundaries. Again, everybody's boundaries are different.
Exactly.
And right. And of course, also about the boundaries is that if some of us may think that we want to persevere through, kudos to you, carry on. But if the other party or other people are like, this is really affecting me very badly. I'm losing weight. I'm draining out. I feel I'm dying on the inside. Cool. If you need to quit or move on, right? There's also no shame in that as well. Right. So I think the last thing we want is, or we should, is to take our own yardstick of how we define wellness, well-being, right? Some people may think well-being as toughen it up, don't let people see you break a sweat. Okay, if you, I mean, you do you, but please don't take that yardstick and then put it on other people and say this is a true measurement.
Exactly.
Of being resilient and stress resilient. That's not.
Jerviel, don't mind if I just shout out to
everyone. Go ahead.
Shout out to everyone listening to you. I think Jerviel made a very good point, and I just want to emphasize the point again. I think as a career counselor myself, do not think just because people around you have it all figured out, that mean that you had to suck it up and be like them. No, don't. You are who you are. You are different. You're unique to who you are. Let's not use the standards of the person sitting beside you as a way of deciding whether that is a threshold. Speak to someone, reach out, talk to a colleague, talk to a family, or even, which I will I'll paste the contact number onto the LinkedIn chat in a while. Reach out to someone and talk about it. In this day and age, in the 21st century, it is okay to not feel all right. And as you heard from Jerviel's story, it is okay. And we all have downtime. The question is not if we will have downtime. The question is what we do when we are in our downtime. That is the most important. And I think, Jerviel, thank you for sharing your story. I just want to salute your courage to come out and to share that, you have burnt out before, and you are really doing this for a lot of people out there who we will never know if they are really in the same situation as you.
Thank you. But that doesn't spare you from buying kopi C, like you're trying to, but
all right.
Gerald, I think you mentioned to me previously that is this something with a workshop that you have with
So because this month is career wellness month, right, or rather mental wellness day, they just passed over. So I think end of the month, 28th October, in Navoda, we do have a workshop of 1 hour, just a talk I'm kind of going to use some case study of what mental wellness at work looks like, career wellness. We're going to perhaps look at some case studies of people who were struggling with their feelings and emotions, and then after that, what happened, to their career decisions after that. And of course, it's really a shout out to our partners, Singapore Anglican Community Services, to really help bring some awareness around their suite of counseling services for the common, I must say, the common feelings that people have about their careers, about anxieties, depression, stress, because I think a lot of people, they may go through this when they're talking about their careers, but they don't know. Yeah, so that's the reason why sometimes when talking about careers, these things float out, and therefore getting it processed properly is super, super important. We're having that talk on the 28th. You can go to our website on avodasolutions.com to sign up for that. It's a free talk, right? And then after, we'll give you the resources to Singapore Anglican Community Services as well. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jerviel, for allowing me to shout out.
No problem. I think those are good resources. We're gonna. I think Jeremiah has put it there. We're gonna put it in our comments, and when this video is ready, when we repost, we will also share about this event. I think it's very important to have all these resources around you. To those who think that you don't need it, okay, all right, just bookmark this chat. Maybe sometime down the road, you then realize that you actually need this, or maybe you can share with someone else, right? I know that it's late, and we talk about wellness. Sleep is also very important, but I'm very thankful for the 10 over people who have stayed with us, and all that. But before we wrap it up, maybe we just want to give a minute to to both Jeremiah and Gerald, if there's something you want to share with the audience as a takeaway, like a good night message, or something that they can use for when they wake up tomorrow.
Wow,
Jeremiah, go first.
Kind of saved my mind. Gerald.
I guess, let me think. I do feel that careers and wellness, these are two topics, right, that kind of go hand in hand together, because wellness is how we feel inside of us, and careers is what we do for a lot of the times. So having more conversations about these things are important. I'm very glad Jerviel took up this ownership to just create this career lounge, just to get conversation started. And if you really, really enjoy, hearing him, he's very engaging. Personally, I feel that way. Yeah. So you know what? Just tune in, bookmark, and follow, because I don't know who else is going to invite on the show, right? But hopefully every time it's going to be this good, this interesting. As we talk more about careers and wellness, and I only hope that all of you kind of get a little bit more inspired, a little bit more encouraged with whatever you're going through, right? Because it's easy to just see everybody holding it in together and succeeding around us, but it's important to also hear the other side of the picture, and that's what Jerviel, I believe, is trying to do. Yeah.
All right, Jeremiah, I think Gerald has bought time for you. So
yeah,
you smashed the previous session with a very good golden nugget. So,
oh man, yeah, you caught me this time now. All right, I think I just want to share that you're not alone. I mean, I'm so tempted to use a particular soccer club's slogan.
Just say what, who, just say.
I don't want to say it, but okay. I mean, you never walk alone, and I think if there's anything this pandemic has shown, is that the need for all of us as humans to come closer together, to support one another. So here, I believe this is also Jerviel's and Gerald's heart cry. I believe I can say this for all three of us, is that, heart cry, is that, if you're listening to this, or someone who is listening to around you that might be going through a very challenging time, you know what? Connect them to us, and we're more than happy to find ways to direct them to the right channel. Or even like Gerald himself, he has a very close working relationship between Avoda and the SACS, Singapore Anglican Community Services. And I think we're more than happy to be your reach out point if you need someone to talk to.
Yeah, Great. I'm the show host, so definitely I can have more than a minute. But no, but because as they share, I get a lot more thoughts, right? Which is I think I want to speak to different groups of people, right? So first group of people I want to speak to is those who are hearing this, whether regardless, right, whether you are a leader or not. I'm just speaking to you as an individual. There's this song, right, and there's this show. It's okay not to be okay. It's fine when you have a bad day and just tell someone you have a bad day. You just want to lie in your bed and not do anything. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to be everything for everyone. You don't have to be a champion wife. You don't have to look champion. You don't have to do anything. Sometimes it's fine. And there's again, like we mentioned, there's no shame in about asking for help. And the reason why I talk about my burnout is I'm just letting all of you know that it happens. I may look very bubbly and cheerful, but I do have my down times as well, right? And that's perfectly fine and normal. So please don't bash yourself when you are going through that route. It's okay. And like what Jeremiah said, is you're not alone. Sometimes what happens is we think that we are the only one on planet Earth that feels that way. But the fact of the matter is, right, probably there's 1 million people who's feeling the same way as you.
Yeah.
Right. So reach out to people and all that. The other group I'll talk to are the peers and the managers. I think when you have just now they mentioned, right, like starting off the meetings with how are you doing, and when you have meetings and all that, please don't always talk about OKR lah, goal setting lah. Sometimes maybe you just want to have a normal coffee. Yeah, this is what I do at my current place. So sometimes I just organize a random coffee session with someone, just like how we will bump into our colleagues at the pantry, right? Like just deliberately go and create a coffee session and say, hey, how's your week? How's your weekend? And just talk nothing. Just talk about nothing about work, right? Just talk about everything else, but not about work. And if there's someone comes to you and say they have a bad day, I kind of beg everybody, please don't brush it off. How a lot of peers and managers brush it off is whatever you feel is cannot be compared to mine. Then end up, right, is actually the manager or the peer who shares their story over the other party. Please don't brush it off. Sometimes what your peers who are under distress want to hear is, I'm here to listen to you, or me too. I'm feeling exactly the way you are feeling. And I think those are very powerful things. To the HR practitioners, rethink about how you think about benefits and wellness, right? It's not just giving care packs lah. It's not about having
Grab
those
vouchers.
Yeah, I mean, those are good things, but it doesn't necessarily address the root of the problem. And I think the root of the problem has to be addressed, connecting back to leadership and I think the culture. Whether you create a psychological safe environment for people to say, I don't have it all, I can't do this, I do not know how to do it, I screw it up, I need help. So maybe all the HR should relook at culture rather than doing all these funfair. But yeah, I think that's how I would advise to the different parties, and I hope that everyone here, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I kind of promised you 1 hour, but again, it seems that the power of 3 has kind of tripled the time that we need to. But we hope that it has been a very useful session. And to those who have stayed with us, thank you. For those who are rewatching this, we also thank you, and we hope that you would share this around, and we hope that you learn something from here. Be it whether you're a HR practitioner, whether you are a boss, you are a team leader, you are just a peer, or you're just yourself. You take away something. And I think someone who left a comment here, which I think was quite good, is listen earnestly, have compassion, and journey along with the peers. I thought that's boom. We didn't write these. These are not seeded by us. I do not know. I don't have someone who seed this, but whoever wrote these, I thought you kind of just wrap up the entire session very nicely. All right. Okay. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Jeremiah, for spending time with me on a Monday evening. And to everyone out there, take care, be safe. we are all in this together. All right. Okay. Otherwise, thank you so much. We are all signing off. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Jaga your mental health. Have a good night.